Do you ever feel tricked to spend money in order to have fun? No! Or do you sometimes feel surprised at the end of every month that you ended up with less money than you thought you had? When I was a kid, I was always playing outside. We were like playing football, basketball, skateboarding, playing with marbles. And when playing outside wasn't an option, we would gather at someone's house and watch TV, play games inside. And to an extent, none of this really costs any money. But throughout life, it kind of seems like spending money becomes way more of a part of spending time with people. This tendency to spend what is called lifestyle money is reflected in the debt statistics for England, where 19% of the population reports to sometimes, often, or very often go into debt to pay for their lifestyle. And that percentage is even bigger for Londoners, of which 40% reports to sometimes, often, or very often go into debt to pay for their lifestyle. So I'd say that oftentimes I feel pressure to spend money in order to have fun. When I go out with a friend, we go for a drink, maybe we go out for a meal, we go to an event, or something else that costs money in order to spend time together. And I don't want to come across as this person who doesn't want to spend money, who is like stingy. It's just kind of interesting that when you get a job and you live in a big city, this is often what it looks like to socialize. But sometimes I think, what happened to how we were hanging out before? When we were students at university, we didn't have a lot of money. We would just hang out on each other's couch, go lie in the park, get some stuff from the grocery store to snack on, but it wouldn't always involve money because we didn't really have any. Now that I know about investing and things like compound interest, and I can kind of skip ahead in my head and think about how these little purchases can add up and maybe have a big impact on my future financial situation, I'm kind of starting to think of the cost of all this. So is it really worth spending my money on this? What is the actual cost? So I dug into this, and this is what I found. Like, for example, when I go out with a friend, we might meet up at a coffee place, have a coffee, the conversation is really good, we'll have a second coffee, maybe even a sandwich or a piece of cake. Then we might go for a walk to a park, which is free. And then after that, we decide to go to the cinema to see Dune 2. And we want to save a little bit of money, so we're not buying any snacks at the cinema. We pop into Waitrose to get a few snacks there. Now, let's say I do this on average twice a month. This comes to a total of £44 a month. Let's say I spend this £44 on average each month, not necessarily on the same thing every single time, but I might go out and grab drinks once a month, which is more expensive than the £44, or I'll just go to a coffee place with a friend. Let's say it's £44 a month on average. And let's say I do this on average for the next 30 years. I know 30 years is a long time, but bear with me. So let's say I find a way to do free stuff with these friends on the weekends, and I manage to save £44 a month because of that. And I do that for 30 years. I end up in my savings account with £15,000. Now I can hear you thinking, well, £15,000 over the course of 30 years, that's really not a lot. I'd rather spend it on me and my friend. Okay, but let's now look at a different scenario in which I don't just put this in my savings account, I put this in a high yield savings account. For example, a cash ISA. I personally have mine in Trading 212 Cash ISA, which gives me a 5.2% return on whatever I invest, tax-free. Let's say we do that for 30 years. This doesn't give us £15,000, this gives us £38,000 after 30 years. And maybe you're still thinking £38,000, I'd rather just go and have fun with my friends, spend money, do whatever I want. And I get that. So let's take it a bit further. Instead of putting this £44 in a savings account or in a high yield savings account, I'm going to put this into index funds, and I'm choosing the S&P 500. The S&P 500 just means the 500 most successful companies, in this case in the US. So let's say I put my money there for 30 years. The average return from the S&P 500 is 10%, meaning that we don't end up with £15,000, we don't end up with £38,000, we end up with £100,000 after 30 years with just £44 a month. Now for me, this feels like a crucial difference. £44 a month of doing things with a friend that I probably won't even remember 30 years from now.
Hold.
And I can kind of substitute that with free stuff instead in order to get £100,000 after 30 years. And you might say, but dude, this is super boring. You can't just be that friend who never wants to spend any money. And you're right, I don't want to be the boring friend. I want to be the friend who does like fun stuff and who you can go out with. So what I did is I went on a weekend through London to do free stuff only, to see if I can find a way to spend time with people in a fun way for free. I started the weekend off with a long cycle ride through the city to just see some touristy things and most of all enjoy the start of summer. I've never spent a full summer in London before, so I want to soak it all in. I met up with a friend at a free comedy show at King's Cross in this pub. Then on Saturday morning I decided to join in on my local park run. The run actually starts in 3 minutes and I'm not there. We are literally sprinting to the start. This is so funny. I'm already tired. And park runs are really places where people of all ages, all abilities join in. So I'd really recommend doing this with friends. We did it. After that, I got ready and read about an open and free chess event. So I grabbed my chessboard and I was off to the cafe where they'd already set up these chessboards. However, there didn't seem to be anyone there to actually play chess, which made me think this is probably just a way to get people in the door. Well, that was a bit of a fail. But luckily on my way out, I stumbled into this local park. Afterwards, I decided to go to Little Venice because I'd never seen it before, and walked along the canal to look at all the narrow boats. Now maybe you're looking at this thinking, I don't like running, stand-up comedy is not my thing, I don't like touring the city. There's really a lot out there for free for every hobby, every age, every person. I found most of these on Eventbrite or meetup.com. And in a more general sense, I think it's really worth thinking about money in this way. Now, I don't think it's necessary to walk around with a calculator and see if every little purchase you make is worth it based on the S&P 500, but what I do hope to convey with this video is that there is a clear choice that you make whenever you spend money, and that some of these events where I find myself spending money are not really that worth it to me. They're just a thing that we started doing now that we all have a job. So I want to challenge you to think about how you spend your money and really sit down and figure out if this is how you want to spend your money. Because in my case, my values of having the opportunity to maybe retire a bit earlier or to switch jobs or maybe to take some time out of working to take care of my future kids. These things are really something that I take into consideration when I spend my day-to-day money. The best way to go around this would be to come up with a budget that fits you and your investing and your future goals. But if you find yourself kind of spending money here and there and you don't really have your financial picture clear, I would really urge you to do that, because as you can see, you could be thinking, I'm just going out with a friend and we're going to the cinema and get a coffee and a sandwich. But you could be missing out on £100,000.